Pretty good. Caleb, thank you very much for the presentation. It was great. It was actually, it was more entertaining than I thought it would be. It was, and
That's
very thoughtful.
sort of a
And
compliment. Thank you, I guess.
well, no, 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 because I don't know.
You were
I know
saying
what
you thought it was
Hetzhoff was
good.
trying to say.
I get
Man, I
Well,
thought this was
it's
going
not
to be
just
awful,
you.
but I guess it was okay.
it. Yeah.
No, no, no. It's you and Matt and like the whole bunch of the people here. You guys are kind of rekindling my interest in philosophy. Anyway, first of all, again, thank you again. And also, I want to say, I do think that Scott's objections are probably more important. Uh, you know, the idea of how are we going to cut up these intuitions or whatever? How are we going to categorize them? Uh, you know, as supernatural versus natural. I think that's I think he's got a very good point there. But I also think that you didn't really want to talk about that, did you? uh, so I was watching your how do you say your slideshow, right? And you had these premises, and in like I forget if it was like the first 3 or 4 slides, you had something, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to talk about that one," and then like the third or fourth slide, you were like, "But I want to talk about this one." It's like, okay, um, so you say that advantageous beliefs, and I put this in the text so that you can kind of read it, right? Advantageous beliefs are more likely to be true since true beliefs would present accurate understanding of the world we're trying to survive in. My first thought when I read this was it seems like you've got that reversed. True beliefs are likely to be advantageous, but are advantageous beliefs likely to be true? And, as I said, I put it in text there in the general chat so you can read it if you like. But, I mean, imagine that we were kind of saddled with like a belief that was, had some kind of evolutionary advantage. And we kind of all believe this because it had some past evolutionary advantage. Wouldn't that make it more suspect? That would make more suspect, not less. Uh, and it seems to me that um and I do think there is something to planning as suspicion here, but still, like, it's not about particular beliefs, is it? I mean, it's about a general kind of problem solving ability. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are my thoughts.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think that when it comes to the tautology, in terms of could an advantageous belief be, or sorry, yes, you agree that true beliefs would be advantageous, but you could say that theoretically there could be an advantageous belief that's not necessarily true. And yes, that would then get into Plantinga's argument. So if we're going to concede Plantinga's argument, I was not even, because usually theists give Plantinga's argument, the EAAN, and
Can
then
you
atheists
can
say,
you
but
just sorry to interrupt, Caleb? Could you just quickly just explain what is planning's argument, just really
yes,
briefly,
yes,
just for people
sorry.
who aren't
So
familiar?
the EAAN, which is a short for Evolutionary Argument Against Naturalism, Plantinga was basically saying that if you believe in both naturalism, that there is no God and nature is all that exists, and believe in evolution, then it's inconsistent. Because Plantinga said that evolution is only goal driven towards survival and reproduction, and that's he basically denied that we should have any reason to think that there's a correlation between accuracy and truth and survival. He was saying that we can conceive of many ways in which a person could, which a population could get a false belief. And like one of his examples, I think, is like if a caveman sees a tiger and he's scared of the tiger and he knows it'll hurt him, but he wants to hug the tiger, but he thinks the best way to hug the tiger is to run away. His belief that his actions lead to the same effect where he survives, but his belief was wrong or something. So that's his example. Now people will say, but you can't just do an isolated belief. It has to be as Hatzoff said, it has to be a mapping of your environment. So yes, maybe he'll survive that one time, but if you have generations doing that, then you might not get that. So that's what people have responded to Plantinga, and so I'm conceding those responses for the sake of argument to say let's grant that the EAA doesn't work and that evolution beliefs that are more likely to be advantageous, more likely to be true. If we're granting that, then here's my argument for religious experience. If we're not going to grant that, we're going to say Plantinga might be right. Fine. But then we're going to undermine a large part of our beliefs because now you have an idea where we can't really know which beliefs are true, which ones are not, because our brains are fixated to find patterns and find truth confirmation, even in things that aren't true. So you wouldn't really be able to falsify any particular belief. And so if that's the case, then I would have to appeal to say, okay, well, we would need some kind of immaterial soul that's independent of evolution to help us with knowledge. So that would be a different argument. If we're going to, I would just say materialism just couldn't get you to epistemic justification. That's the way we want to go down. I'm not taking that route, but that's what we would have to go down if we got rid of that premise. So I don't know if that made any sense, but
Yeah. All right. So Caleb's saying that either you agree that evolutionary preferred beliefs are more likely to be true, and then in which case we have this evolutionarily preferred belief that there's a intelligent designer behind the universe, or there's a agent behind the universe. If you want to deny that our evolutionary history gives beliefs that are most likely to be true, then at that point we have to undermine all of our beliefs, because there's no limiting principle for which beliefs are given true and which are not. And so there you have an argument against knowledge, that if naturalism is true, we can have no knowledge. So you kind of it sounds like you're on like the horns of a dilemma. It either does or it doesn't.
that's
Give
exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a double-edged sword, basically. It's basically
yeah,
saying evolution either way. If you're going to either way you take evolution, it's not going to be good for the naturalist. So it's
yeah.
basically heads I win, tails you lose at that point. Is what it's
All right.
supposed to be, at least.
Hats off. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I could argue against the EAAN, but I mean, is that really the argument that you were making?
No,
Well,
I'm
he's
saying
saying that if you want to go with your argument, he's saying if you want to disagree with his argument that advantageous beliefs are give us true beliefs, then that's going to force you into the EAN. So any argument against the EAN is just going to be an argument in favor of his presentation that evolution
yes,
gives us advantageous beliefs.
exactly. Thank you.
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
Yes. So it's saying that if you okay, so if you were going to concede, if you don't think planting is right, and you think that evolution does in fact, that we can be confident in our beliefs because evolution is more likely to preserve true beliefs, I will concede that and say that's fine. My presentation was saying if we're going on that route, religious belief is advantageous, or at least belief in general supernaturalism. Therefore, without a defeater, we should accept this as true because evolution gave it to us and we can trust evolution. If you want to say, no, planning is right, we can't trust evolution, and it could just be for survival and not be true, okay, fine. I agree my argument doesn't work, but then you undermine a huge portion of epistemology and say we can't know which beliefs of ours are true and false because they could all just be for survival. We can't differentiate them. And then you would have to, I would say you'd have to appeal to non-natural, you'd have to appeal to some kind of immaterial mind to get around that and basically say materialism leaves you with epistemic nihilism at that point. So I'm trying to say either way you take this argument, I don't think it's good for a naturalist.
Okay. I'm not. I'm still not completely sure. I see what you're saying. Hopefully, I haven't misunderstood you, but uh, hopefully this will help. I'm not saying that we can trust our beliefs because of evolution.
Mhm.
I'm saying I thought your argument had something to do with taking our beliefs as trustworthy because they were evolutionarily if you like advantageous.
Yes.
But my thought was if there were specific beliefs, and you mentioned not a specific belief but kind of a class of beliefs, but still kind of a narrow class of beliefs, right? The how do you had your had or whatever it was, what was it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Right, and you said, well, these are, I mean, do you agree that those are suspect?
I think they can be, but I would say that I think that all of our senses can be hyperactive, and that we so like the optical illusion example. I think sight is generally reliable, but we do have blind spots. We do sometimes see things that aren't there, but usually we snap out of it and we can correct it and know. We don't constantly question, is what I'm seeing real? Like usually it's in exceptional cases. And I think the HAD does that where, yeah, there are times in which I yell at my car and it's like, oh, well, that's not an agent, silly. That's a and I like, and I know that internally, and I get over it. I don't make my entire life dedicated to it and pray to the thing. But I think the point is our system has evolved to where we snap out and we can understand when it's being hyperactive and when it's not, and that's why we're able to do. science and stuff like that. That's why we're able to make inferences. That way we're not just constantly saying, well, maybe all of these parallels that we see in scientific method where we make prediction stuff that could all just be illusory and it could be coincidence and our brains are hyperactively trying to make parallels. Like, yeah, but I think it probably is actually legitimate. So that's why I talked about like self-correction. So I agree with you that it can be hyperactive, but I'm also agreeing that we can recognize when it's being hyperactive and when it's not. And so I'm saying with the religious belief specifically, I don't think that's been demonstrated that that is in fact hyperactive. I think that because it has such retention value and people stick to it versus other elements where it doesn't do that. So
Thank you for listening. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Please also look at the show notes in order to find a link to our group so that you can join our next discussion. I look forward to chatting with you.